Your B2B Marketing Pint is the podcast for B2B technology marketers who want to sharpen their competitive edge. Joined by other marketing veterans, your hosts Brian O'Grady and Brendan Ziolo share expertise on what works today and why. Grab a cold pint of hot takes on branding, content marketing, demand generation, and more, served with a side of sarcasm.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest B2B Marketing Pint. I'm super excited to be joined today by a good friend and former colleague, Amy Campbell. We worked together at both Nokia and Alcatel-Lucent. I think some of us may have called us partners in crime. We worked very closely on thought leadership campaigns, demand gen campaigns, and a whole slew of marketing initiatives. But, we may touch on that today, but what I really want to talk to Amy about today is when she left Nokia, she decided to follow her passion. And I think that's something many of us think about doing from time to time. And I'm happy to say Amy's done it. So definitely looking forward to talking to her about that move. She's now the CRO of Minocarbon, whose mission is actually to remove as much excess carbon as possible from the earth as quickly as possible. So it's hard to argue with that as a passionate cause. Wow. She's also joined several organizations from Women in Clean Tech to the National Charity League. So she's an all-around great person, much better than either Brian and I, but you all know that by listening to now and looking forward to it. But to kick us off on maybe a less charitable note, Amy, what are you drinking today?
Well, I know you're a beer club, but I actually brought a High Noon.
What's a High Noon?
It's a vodka seltzer, peach flavor.
Oh, no. So she's drinking something fruity, Brian, is what I'm getting at.
Okay.
I think go south now.
I think we'll allow it.
Okay.
All
right. Fair enough.
Brendan, what are you drinking?
What am I drinking? I think I may have drank this before on the podcast, but I'm drinking a Collective Art IPA. When I drank, I was a big fan of their beers all around, and I was thrilled to see they do non-alcohol versions. So once again, a big fan of many of theirs. Encourage you all to try it. So that's what I have in my glass. Brian, what are you drinking?
Thank you for asking. I did such a bad job trying to pronounce the name of a Polish beer we had a couple episodes again, but I thought, why should I learn from my mistakes when I could just repeat them? This is a German wheat beer, a Weiss beer for fans, but I'm not going to try. Well, I'm going to try the name. Hacker Shore. I'm going to go with Shore. Anyone out there? I'm sure we're going to get corrections. But if you're a fan of wheat beers, this is a good one, and I am. So my suggestion is we crack these open and we start talking marketing.
Great. Yeah.
See, that's the sound drinking. The opening.
All right. We can start drinking now.
I'm still pouring.
Oh, sorry. Wait for Brian to finish pouring. All right. Cheers.
Cheers. All right, that'll help.
All right, Brian, why don't you get the ball rolling today?
All right. Amy, I hope you're feeling extra smart and verbose today because we're going to start picking your brain.
Excellent.
So you guys played together at Nokia. I was way back when played with Alcatel-Lucent a little bit myself, but I didn't end up sticking around for the Nokia stage where you folks played together. But when you left Nokia, when people change jobs a lot in this industry and they go a lot of different places. You could choose, some people go to competitors. You could choose a different industry. You could make different choices for all kinds of reasons. You made a choice to go work in a cause you care very deeply about, which means you also made a choice not to do a bunch of those other things. Tell us about what it's like to make that choice. Did you always know it was going to work? Were you terrified? Was it a plan? How did it work out for you?
Well, it wasn't a plan per se. It became a plan. I was at Nokia, Alcatel-Lucent for about 20 years, a little over. And one of the things that kept me there was they let us work from home. And so while I could have job hopped to other companies, it was easy. Well, the work wasn't easy. I don't mean that, but the ability to have that flexibility when nobody was doing that was an amazing benefit. But then COVID changed everything. COVID changed things a lot for the bad, but some things for the good. And for me, it made me really sit back and reflect on, at the end of my life, what do I want to know that I did? What did I accomplish? Obviously my family and all that, but like from a career standpoint, how have I made a difference? And I took a class, Authentically Me leadership class with Erin Koo. She's really amazing. And in the class, she said, you can make a difference by being kind to people. And I was like, I think I got that one. Maybe I should have worn my Kindness Matters shirt so you would believe it. But I wanted to do something more. So I just was really exploring like the ESG space. And Brendan and I have a former colleague, Patty Wong, who said, do DEI. That's your passion. And it is a passion. But I was like, it's not really something you market. You're not like, we are diverse and inclusive and equitable. That's more of a culture. So I started really looking into climate. And, my kids would come home from school and I'm washing dishes and they'd say, turn off the water. We're going to be out of water by 2030, and all of these messages that I'm getting from my kids and thinking, yeah, there's something here. So I networked to really find out where I wanted to land. And then I also took classes, and I was really lucky that I had a long window that I knew before I was leaving Nokia where I could do this. And I just felt very fortunate that I had that time and I was able to find something passionate or that I'm passionate about. And that's our climate.
Awesome. That's quite the progression. And I think I hear a friend of yours in the background.
Yeah, I have a dog problem. Yeah.
I think this is
can't say no to a rescue, right?
No, I think this is a pro dog podcast where we're saying you're in a safe space for dogs. That's a very cool description, and feeling it at home, feeling it professionally. I think one thing we might have in common is I had the good fortune to be working from home for years before it became sort of a requirement or must do as well. And it's easy to lose sight of what a perk that is in your life for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Well, good really for you for following your passion. Over to you, Brendan.
So on that, when you decided it was climate, like how did you go about finding potential opportunities? Because there's, to your point, there's probably more climate marketing opportunities than DEI to that point, but it was still a big leap, right, from what you'd done at Nokia and things. So, both from a industry and I'm assuming also from a marketing perspective too. So, absolutely. How did you kind of walk through? You mentioned the courses, you mentioned some of the other things, but like how someone listening on this podcast, like I want to do climate or I want to do passion A or whatever. How do you kind of walk them through how to enter a new job market, a new industry, essentially?
Well, and it's interesting because so many people I talked to said, don't leave tech. That's where your network is, and so I knew I was taking a big gamble. And I also knew that I was modeling taking risks for my kids. I felt like when I was much younger, I took risks and I'm like, do they see me taking risks? So, and I really felt like I was going to make it work. But the way I did it, Brendan, is I talked to everybody. I talked to people I had worked before. I had talked to people I hadn't seen in years and really asked a lot of questions and network. LinkedIn was my best friend. And I needed to stay as current as I was because it's such a great tool. And I want to help people like people help me. I was really fortunate that I knew Tom Caston, and he's like industrial energy recycling. He's known in that industry for years and years. And I met with him, and he had co-founded a company, which is Minocarbon. And so they're very much at the time in the development stage. And a few months later, he called back, or their CEO called back and said, can you do some consulting for us? And then they brought me on as the chief revenue officer. So I was lucky in that sense, but I was lucky because I kept calling and kept finding and, going down different, as many paths as I could. And then even in the climate class that I took, I networked with the other people in the class because they might know someone who knows this, and maybe they're into food insecurity, whatever. And I know someone here. Right. So.
Yeah, and those are good tips that I think sometimes we forget. And I know when you set your mind to something, you're going to go get it. So that's important for everyone to realize that's important. And then, it's another good reminder on the importance of networking. You thought you were leaving one behind in tech, but you
Right.
have a broader one than you think quite often. And
That is true.
LinkedIn can be your best friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So with regards to the technology around marketing, you got that advice, don't leave tech. That's where your network is. You've been a marketer in tech. I get that. I hear that loud and clear. That makes sense to me. We had another guest on a few episodes ago, Wendy Moore, who was talking about if you're going to be a good product marketer in tech, it's not just about the marketing. It's actually about a love of the tech itself. If you're going to be a great product marketer. Now, you've done both. You've been in technology marketing with Nokia, and I'm going to guess, I'm no expert in the climate change industry, but I think if you're going to try and achieve the goal you folks have set yourselves, there's going to be some technology involved there too. It's not just going to happen. So how do you square the circle of, I'm an expert communicator, I'm a marketer, but what I'm really marketing is often very core technology, very deep down in the roots technology. Are you able to, did you have to start over and learn a whole new technology language? How did that work?
Yeah, I never thought I'd have to see a chemistry table after I took my chemistry class. I'm like, I am done forever, and so I've actually learned a lot in that space. So, which is really fascinating. And it may be because we're applying scientific information to real world examples, and that's kind of cool, because it makes it a little bit more relatable than just memorizing something from a table. But there's definitely a learning curve, and that's hard. And so I do like to learn. I'm super curious, and so I would read as much as I could and talk to as many people and try not to ask dumb questions. Right? You don't really know they're dumb until later when you're like, oh, should have known that one. But it's part of learning. And the other nice thing about working at a startup like this is everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's mission driven. We're all in it together, right? And so they're so willing to help you and bring you up to speed. Because the faster we're all up to speed, the faster we can move forward. But definitely a learning curve. Yeah.
And we have heard from other guests and probably our own experience too, Brendan, that's a real advantage of the startup mentality. If there's a smaller army to get marching in the same direction, it's that much easier to get marching in the same direction.
Yeah, it really is. And everybody has this positive energy. Everybody feels good about what they're doing. And it's a completely different environment. You've got your hands in everything, right? Whereas, in the big company, you are responsible for one thing, right? And I really like working the demand gen and thought leadership stuff with Brendan. That was in tech. That's what I would want to do. I didn't love the tech itself. I mean, it was great that your 5G phone worked, but I liked the art and science of the marketing. But in the startup, you're scrappier. That big budget. Bye bye. You're figuring out how to do things yourself. It's challenging, but it's such a positive energy. It really makes up for any big budget that you thought wasn't big, but was, really huge.
And you touched on an interesting point there, Amy, that I wanted to, you kind of admitted it a bit yourself, but we see it all the time. I know you and I have, Brian has, but, there's quite often marketing people at tech companies who are passionate marketing people, but in your example, don't care about the 5G phone, right? Or don't care about whatever they're marketing. And there's others that are really technical and are passionate about that, and for some reason ended up in marketing and don't kind of care or know that stuff. Like, do you see that now that you're passionate about the company and product and passionate about marketing? Like, do you see the advantages of that? Are there issues with the other where you're passionate about one but not both? Like, how do you see that playing out now that you've been in both situations to some extent?
Well, I think if you're passionate about it, you're going to relate to the content. You're going to relate to what the audience wants more. It makes everything more relatable and interesting, right? The content's more interesting to you. So I think it definitely makes a difference. I mean, I know where we worked, we had a lot of technical people that came into marketing, and they knew the technical part, but I do think there is a marriage. I do think, everybody can't be a creative marketer and everybody can't be an engineer. Or if they do, they have to figure out how to work together, because there's got to be able to use both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
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 So does that mean you have to approach this job differently if you're, in the case of Nokia, we kind of know what they do. We know the kind of tech they're involved in, and there's certainly great applications for it. Some people might get more excited about those applications than others, but versus sort of a value-driven operation that you're at now, you're I think the ultimate goal is to save the planet. That's fairly lofty. That seems
Nothing major.
Nothing, just trying to save the planet. So do you have to approach your job as a marketer differently when it's totally value based or part of the mission is value based that way versus, we're a public company with marketing this technology. We've got numbers to hit. Does it make you, as a marketer, behave differently in how you go to market?
Absolutely. There's much more at stake. Right. And I know we talk about saving the earth, and I mean, that is major. But I mean, when you're a startup and you mess up, it's a much bigger impact than if you're in a big company and your piece of a very big pie messes up, right? Yes, maybe you falter a little bit, right? But there's so many other people and resources and all that will work out. But in a startup, you got to try things and what do we call it, Brendan? Fast failing. But you got to keep it going. And so there is a lot more at stake. The survival of the company is at stake, right? So it definitely is a different energy that it brings.
Is it that much easier to get out of bed in the morning, though, when you've got a value?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
That's what I want to hear.
Yes. And every night when I go to bed, I'm like, I am just so thankful that I'm able to do this. And I feel good. And I think that it impacts your life. At least it has for me, knowing that even on the hard days and the good days and every day, it's like, I'm taking a step to doing better. That really sounded cheesy.
That resonates with me. Oh, no, it makes sense. So that resonates with me because that, to me, would be the most attractive part, which is every job's going to have bad days, but at least after you have a bad day, you get up the next morning and you get that extra dose of motivation, which you may not get with every gig.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I love hearing this story, and I'm super proud of you and congratulate you for taking this move. But I also want to pick your brain on the marketing front, if we can, for a little bit.
For sure.
Because I know you could go on about the climate and all these other great things as well, but it is a marketing podcast.
Right,
we want to give some people some takeaways here as well. So, and you alluded to this in the last bit when you're talking about the startups and versus the big budgets and stuff like that. So maybe think of this through the lens of a startup or smaller company, not the budgets we had at Nokia. But, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges today in marketing or some of the big changes that you're seeing out there from, the highest level, but maybe through the lens of a startup?
Well, I think from our startup, we're developing markets. And I think that's a completely different challenge than I've worked at startups before, but not, this early. And it's exciting because there's so much to learn, but boy, there's a lot to learn, right? You think you know something, so we've had to be much, like I mentioned earlier, scrappy, and we'll find consultants in different areas to teach us, how, what's important in these different industries. And the other thing is there's a lot more collaboration with, our competitors, because what we think is if we win, we want everybody to win, right? And that's how we save the planet, right? So if we're continuing to sequester carbon and, remove contaminants and, make our soil healthier, et cetera, we all win. So we collaborate a lot with other biochar companies on what's working for you. What does your plant look like? How are you doing this? Lot of knowledge sharing that way that obviously we never saw in these big corporate companies because you couldn't do it. But here we're all in it to, let's make this work for everybody. But developing markets is completely different. And yeah, there's a lot to learn there. But it is exciting. And then you learn about all these different industries you had no idea. I never thought I'd be into, hydrocarbons and petroleum and all that, but it's good.
So that's that's a really great point about, when you're at an early stage startup in an early market, I mean, you've got to develop the market and educate the market first before you worry about some of the things that were our day to day at Nokia. What are some of the things you're doing on the marketing front that that are working, to build out that market, to educate the market, to grow that market?
No, I mean, that's a great question, Brendan. Well, biochar itself, that's what we do, has been around for hundreds of years. So some people have this perception that, it's mom and pop and all that. And there's a lot of science behind it. And so making that awareness, making that change and shift in people is big, right? And people who could really benefit from the product that have no idea that it exists. So what we're doing now, we've done a lot of work looking at different segments and trying to understand, like, will they pay what we need them to pay? Okay, no. Still good for them, but it doesn't make the business model work. So we have spent a lot of time on the different segments. And so one of the ways that we're trying to do that is we've created an influencer program where we're trying to get influencers from the industries that we're seeking to penetrate in those markets, and work with them, coordinate content with them, do social stuff, like a full influencer program, and rolling it out over several months. And hopefully that's going to make a difference, because then it will be more relatable to the people in the segments, right? If it's people that they know and trust. So that's the big thing we're working on now. We did put in a CRM about a year ago, which is exciting, to go in there and see when the leads come in. And that's also interesting. We did some paid media, low budget stuff, but we still got leads in. And it was really interesting based on the messaging. Oh, this person, they're looking for a job. And this person is, right. But we had a lot of really great leads that came out of it too, from I want to buy to let's partner together. I've got this feedstock. Can you help me, take care of it, et cetera. But
Cool.
awareness is big. Yeah.
I love hearing about we'll have to hold our episode on an influencer program. It's an area I'd love to dive into. That's really interesting. The other part I find really interesting is you mentioned you even want your competition to win when you're creating a market, because if they're winning, you're winning. And that another one of our guests, Santosh, had mentioned doing some cooperative marketing with competitors sometimes. This is kind of a new space for me. I'm as competitive as the next guy. I don't wish bad things on my competition. But the thought of actually joining up, syncing up with them and working together and going after a market together, that's kind of new and different for me. And it's neat to hear it from two different places now. You're the second guest to mention that.
Right. Well, I think one of the obstacles we have is transportation. So, and we're talking truckloads that we ship to big projects, right? And so it kind of ruins your climate story when you're shipping halfway across the country. But if I know somebody who's close by, I can broker it, right? There's different options that you can do. But at the end of the day, I want us all to win. I want everybody to be successful, and we can get up to speed faster. Oh, we tried this, it didn't work. Oh, we're looking at this, and this has been amazing, and here's a price point we're getting, et cetera. So that's good.
Real knowledge sharing. Awesome.
A lot of knowledge.
Okay, well, again, this happens to us frequently here. I'd like to keep this discussion going all day, but people won't listen to us all day, and we are going to run out of paper eventually. Brendan, I was thinking about bringing us home with our classic closer. What do you think?
I can't wait to hear Amy's answer on this one.
Okay.
Hope we didn't tell her what's coming.
No.
What's that?
Well, here comes the classic B2B Marketing Pint closer. In your role, we'll leave it open-ended a little bit, whether it's Nokia or whether it's here in your new role. I guess not that super new, but your newer role. What's the biggest myth? And I know in your particular field that could open a lot of discussions, but what's the biggest myth, whether about marketing or about the industry you're in, that's driving you crazy, and how would you like to correct it? What's the reality behind that myth that you would love it if everybody knew?
Yeah, well, it does kind of remind me of the example we were talking earlier, where you have technical people and you have marketing people, or people who are educated and trained in marketing, and there's differences of opinion. I guess for me, I think everybody thinks they know marketing. Everybody thinks it's easy. There's a lot more to it. There's an art and a science to it. So I would say not in my current world, because right now it's all hands on deck. Everybody wears hats, which is cool, because then you get to learn a lot more. But I'd say the whole yeah, I could do that. Or they should have done this differently. Or, I mean, everybody's got an opinion. I think that's more of a life thing than just only marketing. But, but at the end of the day, it's really important to have that marketing and sales together, right? It's not a, we did this and you stunk at this, or you didn't deliver that, and actually that's how we've organized it at MYNO, is sales and marketing is together, and a partnership is going to be much better than not, right? And I'm not saying sales are the only people who know how to do marketing. They actually are. It's everybody, right? So especially sometimes the technical folks, but it doesn't matter. Everybody has an opinion, and as long as we drive revenue and make sales, we all win.
So maybe one of the myths to bust there is maybe you don't need separate marketing and sales departments. Maybe they play well or even better together.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like even at Nokia, one of the big challenges that we had is we had our KPIs and each of the business divisions had their KPIs and they didn't match, right? So you can't win that way, right? If you're all shooting for different goals. And so I think the same could be true with sales and marketing. Work for the same goals, right? Whether you're together or not.
That is a theme. I've lived that theme. Usually my most painful experiences are when you've got to discover the hard way that these groups are not going after the same goals. We're not aligned. And I didn't ask that at the beginning. So I've lived that. But it's also a theme we've heard in some of our other guests, is that alignment between sales, marketing, and Brendan. Right. I know you've spent a lot of time working on that yourself.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I, not surprised that Amy and I share perspectives there after working together for a number of years, and facing some of the same challenges and then looking for those solutions. But yeah, I'm totally with you on the aligning them, and having them in the same team with but more importantly having the same goals is definitely spot on. And can't wait to hear about your successes and as things grow at your current role. So I definitely want to thank you for taking the time. I mean, this was a cool topic, a bit different than what we covered on some of the other ones. And we do want to, get people thinking outside the box. And I think you did a great job of that, and really brought a great perspective on, how to marry your passion, big ambitions, and marketing all in the same one, which I think is super great. And I really appreciate you joining us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Matt, our pleasure. Thanks. We appreciate it. Best of luck with your mission. I'll drink to that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, folks, if you liked that episode, you won't believe the next one.
So don't forget to subscribe on your favorite platform and you won't miss out.
Or if you've got an idea we haven't thought of yet, hit us up in the comments. We'll cover that too.